about the incident.
Yeah.
And you managed to find some money people who said, okay,
Yeah.
and they trusted Rob's vision. They gave you the money, and tell us a little bit about just like the fact that this film was made with a free hand. Like,
It was really weird because we just finished Police Beat, and Police Beat went to Sundance, and we worked with a guy called Ted Hope to make a really weirdly enough a part 2 to Police Beat, and as if anyway that didn't work out. And then when that sort of fell through, I remember exactly the day it fell through because I went to the funeral of August Wilson, and I heard that the whole thing was done. Rob calls me and says, because I wrote an essay about this I wrote a whole feature about this, and it was published in The Stranger, where I still write for in Seattle. And I wrote it, you can go and just, online is still there. And in fact, Rob took the pictures. We went out to Enumclaw, and then he said, this should be a movie. And I said, this story? He said, yeah. And I looked around, and we were in Enumclaw, and I said, this place is beautiful, and the crime is horrible. I love it. It's a great idea. And so we pitched it to, in that time we had access to some pretty high people, and it was HDNet. And we pitched it to HDNet, and Mark Cuban was running HDNet. And this is my funniest story about Mark Cuban, because I only have one. And we had to have this conference call with him, and he said he's going to write us a check to make this film right away because he liked the idea, but he wanted us to promise that we'd show the horse fucking, and we had to take a break.
So it wasn't carte blanche.
No. He said, really? And he said, no, I'll give you if you promise me you got the tape, and we did. And it's like, would you? Are you going to show it? And they said, well, we don't know. I didn't say that. I kept quiet about it. And then Mark Cuban. After we done with the call with Mark Cuban, and I was very honest. I was like, we can't make any promises. And then Mark Cuban heard this decision, and he cut.
He reneged.
Oh yeah, he went. He bounced. And
Wow.
So Zoo was originally
and I said billionaires are gonna billionaire. I'm like, oh my god. They're such freaks, and he just wanted the fucking, and I was like, he didn't care about anything else but that, and we just all we asked for was the freedom to decide how we were going to do that, and he wouldn't give it to us. And then weirdly enough, one of the guys who was at HDNet went to Think Films.
Yeah.
And it's the guy who now runs A24. A24 is Katz.
Cats.
Daniel Katz. It's Daniel Katz. And Daniel Katz called us up and said, I'll do it. I'll do it. And Daniel Katz said, and I said, really? And he said, but I'm going to another place, Think Films, and I'll do it over there. But it's going to be what they call a negative pickup. So, and we accepted that. And so a negative pickup means that they'll pay when the whole thing is done, but they give you the promise so you can take it to another investor, and the investors will say, oh, this is as good as gold, I'll get my money back. And that's how that was supposed to happen. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, that's the whole story.
And the reason we're starting with that story is because when we had a Q&A in June, you and Rob talked about how the film had a different title initially, and how you despised but did not protest the poster, which has the horse with the eye, with the man reflected in the,
We couldn't say no. We were done, and we're there's a moment you get tired of fighting, and we're at Sundance, and it was
Rest in peace.
Huh?
Rest in peace.
Oh, Sundance? Oh, yeah.
Redford. or what?
Yeah.
Oh, Redford.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They are moving it.
Yeah. By the Redford saw my daughter walk for the first time.
Yeah.
And that's a very true story. At Sundance.
They are.
He
moving
said,
it,
she's
right?
walking, and we turned around when the daughter was walking. Anyway, that's Redford's, my memory. Yeah? But yeah.
But so they didn't change anything about the film, but it was originally going to be called In the Forest.
Yeah, they didn't like that title.
What was the original title? Charles?
In the forest is, I forgot it. Something. In the forest is every kind of bird. And I'm not kidding. And because I know we wrote about that in cinema. This is the magazine in Canada, the film magazine there.
CinemaScope.
CinemaScope, yes.
R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah. And we wrote about it there, and we revealed that that's the title of the film. And so we did a joint essay about what we're going to do. But the whole idea was, that was that. Yeah.
So these were heady days. I personally came to this because I grew up in Seattle, and I remember reading Charles's writing in The Stranger, the Alt Weekly. Charles actually introduced me to Burial and Mark Fisher, and we did the Q&A before. You mentioned there was like a test version of Zoom.
Yeah. Where we use Burial's music.
Right. So
Yeah.
there's a film strip somewhere that's just like horses in slow motion set to Burial.
Yes, set to Burial. Yeah. No. And there was a football helmet because we didn't use that because apparently when he was doing it he needed some protection, so he had a football helmet on, and we didn't use that at the end, but we used it in the thing because against Burial with the flowers and all that stuff moving around. But there was no way we could. Burial's music was so chopped up that we knew that we would end up tied with like if anybody recognized their music in it, would be tied up with lawsuits.
Licensing.
Yeah. So you can't even buy his music. I remember that Elysium used Burial, and I was surprised. It's like, my God, if anybody catches anything in that song, you're in trouble. But but that was
That great South African filmmaker.
Oh yeah.
Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, Blomkamp. Yeah, Neil Blomkamp.
Okay.
District 9. Yeah.
Well, just real quick, my last question before we go to the audience. Can you talk just a little bit about, like, I don't know, the sort of lyrical or poetic aspects of it aside?
Oh, yeah.
You and I texted about this. You and Dan
Yeah.
Savage had disagreed about the fact that these guys also
Dan
were
Savage
having
and I.
gay sex.
Yeah, Dan Savage was
Or-
There was a big dispute between Dan Savage and I when I wrote the piece, not when I did the movie.
Right.
This is not in the movie, but when I wrote the piece, because Dan Savage edited the piece, and he's a great editor. I mean, he really is. He was my favorite editor at that time, and he was worried that it was not really about the horse, but about the size of the penis, and so it was right. It was a cock fetish, and not a horse fetish, and so there's an issue: was it zoo or not? And that was his position, and you know what I mean. And so were they really zoos? And we debated that at length. Because he just said that there was a whole culture, underground culture, among gay men that was fixated with cock size. That's what he said to me. And I said, okay, but when I researched, I saw a lot of zoos appearing, and that were not in the description that Dan had. And then there was another thing that I was really interested in that first piece was the fact that there was no law against bestiality in the state of Washington, so nobody broke the law. And I was fascinated by how like everybody sort of caught with their pants down, literally. I mean, the whole state was like, we don't have a law against this, and it was like, no, they could just do this, yes. And there was a whole thing about them being super angry at Mr. Hands for screwing their paradise. Oh, sorry, that pun was totally unintended. But, you know what I mean? Like, no, totally ruining their paradise. Because they had it all, right? They had this, and they didn't. And the other thing that I said when we went in the movie, I was also interested, and this is my last big sort of long thing, because it was that debate with Dan Savage. It was the debate. It was the issue of of the law. Suddenly, that bestiality was okay, and the state never minded it, and it sort of gave Washington State this wilderness aspect, which it is. It's kind of out there, and it's like, how long? I mean, like, how did it not become problematic for so long, right? And
The internet was not a thing yet.
Huh?
It's because the internet wasn't a thing yet.
And that's the third thing, was the internet came in. And the internet was both a blessing and a curse. And this was my real interest. If you watch the film, I was the one who was pinpointing that what was happening is, at the time, we were discovering that look, if you wanted to meet people who wanted to have sex with horses, you couldn't go to a bar.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean? You couldn't just you know what I mean? You couldn't just find them, right? There's no way to see them. And then you had these chat rooms that just appeared as a part of this new technology, and suddenly they were visible to each other. And so it was completely created by a new technology. All of this was not possible, which is why we opened the movie with the old school, right? Because it's like telling us we're going into
Booting up.
we're going to go into the future,
The information
yeah,
superhighway.
society,
Yeah.
and it comes through again and again that this is not. Don't think this is ancient. This is actually a new event.
This is not a new event. It's
Yes.
that it's just more presentable to
Yeah.
the world.
Yes, or the accessibility, and so we don't know what technology is going to do. That was my fascination. That we don't know what doors technology is open, right? I mean, you build something, and then you find it's. As I said, it's funny. You build it. It's like building a house, thinking that you have a whole plan, and you build a house, and then you turn and you find a door that wasn't in the plan, right? And you just open it, and you find another room that you didn't build at all. Right, and that was to me was the movie, was this door you didn't see when you thought, we'll communicate, we'll be able to exchange goods, right? We'll send, right? We'll do all this normal stuff, and then you're done, and then you just open. Then it's like, what are all these doors doing all over here? And you open them, and they're like, one goes this direction, one goes that direction, and you didn't see it. And that was to me the real inspiration.
Thank you, Charles.
Yeah.
So, questions from the audience. You in the back.
Me?
Yeah. It's you.
Thanks. What was your process like in getting to know the subjects? And
But that was up to Rob. I'm the insensitive guy. I'm the I was the heady guy.
You have this bad cop.
Sorry.
Every time I ask this, each of you points to the other.
I know.
You're the sensitive one. Rob's the enforcer. Rob's the sensitive one. You're the enforcer.
I'd like to hear just in general about what kind of interactions you had with them, if any. Like,
Oh,
what they like
I was, what happened was, if I'm correct about this, during the shoots, because what happened would be, we'd have to record them, and they, in my opinion, trusted Rob much more than they trusted me, and we were dealing with such a sensitive, you know what I mean, the whole. We're just scared of losing anybody.
Yeah,
That we didn't want to have anybody feeling that they were unwelcome or unsafe, right? And so Rob really did a lot of that stuff. I'd write the questions often and present things that say like we should, you may have to push on this a little bit because I know a lot of people may not ask it. But we have to at the end of the day, and but they really in this particular film, I know that they really took to Rob, and that's when all the other zoos or members of that circle came in, because they heard from Coyote that Rob, they heard that we're not sensational,
judgmental,
prejudice.
They learned that, and so they came in, and we were very cautious about. We were very, like to make sure that whatever they said, we just okay. When I read the story in 2005, I just remember everybody laughing right, about it. And I remember being at a party.
Sensational.
Yeah, and people just laughed and hooted. And when I wrote the piece, I really went to like think about what was going on. And then when we made the film, we really said, let's not laugh. That was it. Let's not laugh. Let's just say, right? Let's give them the mic, and then just move on and just see where it takes us. And that was and I brought that in. I might have been, the problem is that I was the one who asked the harder questions. And sometimes people be nerved by and think, what is your motive of that? But mine was, the story works better if we have these things answered on the film. And I felt Rob was better at approaching them and asking at times that were needed. Because sometimes you have to go back and say, we need this said, or at least mentioned, and that's what it was.
Other questions?
I had a question about the aesthetic of this, I don't know, like hyper deep noir,
Yeah.
and where did that came from? And maybe
Oh,
some
that
of
was
the
Rob and I.
inspiration behind why you chose to film in that way.
Rob and I, we went to the farm where it happened, and I was okay. I'll just be honest about this, and I'm not trying to be pretentious. I'm sorry. It was Le Fleur de Mal.
I love pretentious. So
Yeah, and it was Baudelaire, and I love the idea of flowers being in hell. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I love the aesthetic of finding flowers where you don't expect them. And I said this to Rob, we should really make this, like Baudelaire is so gorgeous about talking about Satan and all these things, and talking about, writing his poems where everything's fallen, and yet there's this beauty in this fallen place. And I was, and that was the impulse was for me to say, no, make it as beautiful as possible. Go into, don't miss a chance to make this even more beautiful, right? Because I want everybody to be trapped in this, right? In this situation where you know what you're hearing, but you look at the images and they're just gorgeous, right? It's that is a line from Lolita that I love. And I'm not a big fan of Lolita right now for obvious reasons, but because it appeared in the Epstein files. The
guy knew how to write a sentence, we can say.
Yeah, but there's this whole notion of just being,
It's fiction, everyone, by the way.
Yeah. But there's this idea of that there's beauty that is on the other side of the mirror, as it were, right, of our morality.
Yeah.
And that's where the challenge was to walk through what you think is right, where beauty should exist, and to walk through the mirror and to find it in a strange planet, which is why we opened the film with that. It was almost like we're arriving, right? We're leaving human morality. Everybody, let it go. We're going in and we're going to land, and this is a forbidden planet.
Very beautiful. Like watching the movie, it's like it seems like genuinely authentic. Like you're living in this world, and I am really curious about your perspective of like where did your perspective turn? Like, because obviously, like, your perspective is different from these people's. Like, you're telling a story.
Yeah.
Like, what is your perspective? And, like, how do you write that? How do you, like, convert? Like, these people live in a world, but you have your own version of that. Like, how do you, like...
No, that's the whole point, because it questions my own values.
Yeah.
And, in fact, we have to, this is my most Nietzschean side. And I'm not even a big Nietzschean, because I think he's overrated. But when it comes to, like, thinking about the idea of values, right, they're not stable. Right, they're not.
Like, what is perspective?
Yeah,
like,
they're
these
not.
People exist in this world, and then you're.
Yeah. They're completely locked into their time, into their
Yeah.
groups, and so forth and so on. And I have to accept that even what I believe to be right, absolutely true, is there's no platonic form for it. There's not a
Yeah.
place beyond where it says, right, beauty is justice, and
Yeah.
so forth and so on. But it means that I have the responsibility for morality.
Yeah.
That's what I would
exactly.
say. But
And
but-
even
but-
in this perspective of like we're watching them as sad, it's like in their world they're like it's sad not for that reason.
yes, but they're
Instead they've
inventing.
lost their identity. I was gonna say.
Well, they were inventing morality. They're
Mhm.
inventing a community.
Yeah.
And I wanted that notion of this community,
Mm-hmm.
and that we always take community to be what we want it to be, right? And I was like, no, this is community too.
Yeah.
But it's as I said, it's on the other side of the mirror.
Yeah. Exactly.
Are we out of time, even?
Oh, which is not a bad idea.
Yeah, maybe one more question.
Okay, one more question, please, if anyone has one. Yep.
How did the subjects react to the finished product?
Oh, they loved it. No, they're big fans. Yeah. In fact, the whole dolphin bit was that they were like, "Thank you." No. That was actually, you know what I mean. I remember in film comment we were savage for making a film like this, and but they were like, no, they were like, thank you, and I think they'd moved to another state that had not solved this. They did, actually, they did.
What's that mean? Going back to God's country? Or
No,
leaving?
they left. They left. Yeah, they left because oh gosh, it's so funny. I was there for the court case. James Tate, who's in the film, who talks, and I won't say who he is, but he was there. And I learned a lot about not so much. I went to sit and sat down to see his arraignment, and it was like all day watching DUIs.
Yeah.
Like all day, one after the other. I got maybe one prostitute, and then I got a couple of thieves, 100 DUIs, right? No, seriously. And then finally, right, the zoophile, right? And it's like, my gosh, I just sat here all day, and I realized that the American criminal system is really awful.
Fun.
It's just no. I just to, I'll never forget how much I had to. And he came up, said a few words to the judge. The judge says, "Don't do it again. Get out of here." Dash, and he was gone. And I said, I sat here all afternoon watching. But I know I drank too much. I'm trying to one after the other. And I didn't know that DUI is an industry, and that was a real revelation for me. And I like what goes on in courts. You know, it's not like ta-da. That's all the good stuff, right? That's like one case out of 1,000, because you sit there, like, it's really crap after crap after crap. And you're like, that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I think we gotta get ready for the midnight, but thank